The following is a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. For more information, please visit our website at dallasgenealogy.com.
Last time we left off with finding and Noreen's Cole's parents. We don't know her mother's maiden name yet. And at that point, I'm going to say I will usually stop and try to find a marriage record for this couple. But because I know they were in Louisiana, I don't think those marriage records are online, so I'm probably not going to find that record. But just to be on the safe side, I'm going to look at family search, the little light bulb that gives me family search clues on this, on her dad, and there are some, so I'm going to click on this. This upper part means they're pending, that people haven't decided if this is the right person or not. You only need to click one of these in order for it to open all of them. You don't have to click on each one. All four will come up here. The ones that are at green and have check marks by them mean that somebody thinks that this is the correct person for this particular record. Now, last time we got the 1920 and the 1930. So we still need the 1940 and the 1900. We'll go on and get the draft registration card because that will give us his birth date. And if you can't find anything other than the draft records, many organizations will accept that for his birth date as documentation. And then there's two for Texas death records. I go on and open everything and then I start working them. All right, this one looks like this death certificate is for one of their sons, and it gives me her maiden name, which is a yay. So I'm going to view the original document. It will open in a new window. So you don't have to worry about right mouse clicking and saying new window. It will automatically do that for you. And make it big enough so you can read it. Although it is transcribed down here, you can't really see everything on the strip, so it's easier if you enlarge it. Because I actually want to see the certificate number, and if I can, the parents' names, as well as the person's vital records. So if this is Joe, and that's their oldest son that we had already known about. So either you can double click on him to open his edit person or do an Alt EP. That is edit person after you select his name. And I'm going to do an Alt S to add a new source. I'm going to do Alt C. We already have death certificates in here. So I'm going to choose that death certificate. And then I'm going to come back to my death certificate to see what name is on it. Because one of the things I do for death certificate is put the name that it is indexed by. Not what you know it to be, but what it is indexed by so somebody else can find it. These records are actually available in more than one place. They're available on Ancestry and Family Search, and there may be some in other sites, but they're free on Family Search. So it's Texas, and he died in 1966. And the certificate number, 80857, 808. And now you know who I want to be able to see all that. information before why I place it the way I do. I'm going to download this, and I've got to navigate to where I want to keep it. And this is Joe D. Cole death certificate. And I always make sure it downloads all the way. I didn't do that the other day, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't see the picture. It's because it didn't ever finish. So I'm going to click on media, add new media from the disk. And now I've got to navigate again to that same location that I just put it in. And select it and click open. And in my caption, I'm basically going to put the same thing. If I knew that middle name, I would go on and put that in there for the death certificate. That's not what I put in the citation, but that's what I would put here if I knew it. And Alt-O again, and I'm going to memorize this by clicking Alt-M for memorize. I'm going to close this window because I'm going to come down here to his birth date and put in April 6th, 1912, and source it with an Alt-SPO. And then I'm going to add the citation for a fact for death, 7 December 66. And he died in Houston. And Control V double checks that and actually gets it entered. And now I'm going to do another Alt-SPO. And that enters his death information. That says he was born in Jenna, Louisiana. I don't know if I have Jenna in my database. Nope. So I'm actually going to go look that information up in Google. Because it will tell me what parish it was in Louisiana. So it's in LaSalle. So I can go back and put the correct information here in places. It didn't like the way I wrote it, so it will fix it. And I'm going to close that. And his dad's name was on it, so I'm going to Alt-EP. It'll automatically open with the person highlighted, and I just do SPO for pasting that source on there. I'm going to come down to the mother, do an EP for edit person, S for source, P for paste, O to close, and because they give me her last name, I can now enter it, Hudson. And I need to make sure I'm spelling it right. Oops, wrong thing. Well, I don't know because somebody typed over it. Anyway, it does say he was married, but I'm not going to pursue that at this time. I might come back and look at this to see what else other information is there. But right now I'm really I was looking for her last name. So I'm going to close that window because I'm through with it. I'm going to close that window because I'm through with it. All right, and that one because that was the record. All right, This is the actual death certificate of the father, Hugh M. Cole. I'm going to view that document. Sometimes it takes a while to come in, so just be patient. Here again, I'm going to make it bigger so I can see all of it. And his parents' names are not there. They didn't know him. And this informant was his son. But, okay, download that. I'm going to make him a senior because we know that there's a junior. Although when he was born, he was not a senior. That gets more confusing to more people than I like to. Even I can get confused on seniors, juniors, 3s and 4s, because they don't always mean the same thing at different times. Oops. Okay, so now I'm going to come over to the dad. Close that. Come back up here to him. Open. I'm going to add a death certificate. Oops. Man, my fingers just don't want to work today. He died in 1967. Three, 9, 1, 2, 4. I'm going to attach the media, Alt M, Alt A, Alt D, and put in the death certificate. Put my caption in. Oh, there's a bunch of people. Click OK. I'm going to memorize this death certificate. And I'm going to come down to his birth. I'm going to add it by Alt SPO. And he was born December 19th, 1885. So I'm going to put December 19th in here. And that'll give me any more information than Louisiana. Already added him. Okay. And I'm going to add a fact of death. 22 June 67. He died in Pasadena, Harris County. Make sure I spelled Pasadena right. Yeah. Okay. And Alt SPO to add that source. And I noticed, because they abstracted it, that he was divorced on this record. That kind of gives me a clue that maybe for her death certificate, she may not be a Cole. Because if they're divorced, she could have remarried. So keep that in mind as when we start pursuing her. So I'm going to close these two windows. Here's his draft registration card. Like I said, you click on the link, it opens in a new window, so you don't have to make it do that. It's thinking. Okay. Here again, I want to make it big enough so I can actually read it, because there's some interesting things that can be on this record. And not all of them look like this. Some of them will have a little different format. They don't all have this information. They don't all ask for the name of the nearest relative. there's a different format on some of them in this area. This particular one does have the wife's name. And you also want to look at this area for the date, because I'm going to add this as a residence. I'm going to download it. Hugh M. Cole, World War I draft registration card. And it's got his middle name on there, so we can add that. So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to go on and add Mayfield. I'm going to do a Alt-SC, even though I know I don't have World War I. Yes, I do. They're right here. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to put in Hugh Mayfield Cole. Alt-M, A-D, add his draft record to as the media. Put in the same caption as basically what I named it. Click OK twice, and I'm going to memorize this because it gives me his birth date. So I'm going to put it on his birth date. I'm going to add a fact of a residence. That's why I said it's sometimes you want to look at this birth or the date of registration. This is really developing you a timeline. I'm going to source it there too. So that's the draft registration card. Because it has her name on it, I'm actually going to close him and do an Alt-EP to open her up. It's going to open on her name, and I'm going to put it on her name as well. So we know that they married prior to 1918, for sure, because of that record. Well, they have children too, but the draft record is pretty definitive. Okay, so I'm through with the draft record. And now we have the 1900 census. Now in this one, he's not head of household, he's a child. And I'm going to wait to do it until after I do this 1841, because that still is getting the family in. So I'm going to view the original document. Family Search has started highlighting down here and going straight to the abstract for the family, which is kind of nice. Family Search also will tell you the precinct and the county and the state of the census records up here. So it makes it a lot easier to find. If you're looking at the abstract, kind of pay attention to where this little mark is, because that's kind of sort of where they will be on this census roll. So if you enlarge it, you know it's going to be toward the bottom. Actually, it is on the bottom. And the sun is on the next page. So this means you've got a double download. So I'm going to download this first one. Hugh Mayfield Cole, family, 1940 census, Fort Bend, Texas. And then I'm going to put 001 because I know there's a second page. I'm going to click save. And then I'm going to go to the next page by clicking this little arrow. And I'm going to scroll up to the top because there's the sun. So I'm going to download this page, put in a H for Hugh, click on that, change this to a 2. Now this one, I'm glad this kind of happened because I can show you how to do this. Hugh Mayfield, Artifact, Residence, 1940. They were in Fort Bend. And so now I'm going to cite a source. 1940s there, so I'm going to click on that. I'm going to put in Hugh Mayfield because they actually put Mayfield in there. And now I'm just going to click Alt-M because I can come over here and have them show that census in a window. Make it big enough so I can see it. And in this Alt-M area, I can take these two 1940 census. You can do this with as many images as you want. So like if you have a will record that's 4 pages long, or you have a pension record that's 108 pages long, you can select them all and then you simply drag and drop them into this window. And they will move over there. And you don't have to link each and every one individually, which saves you a lot of time. And click OK. I'm going to memorize this. Close this window. I'm going to now do an Alt-SPO on his name, on his birth. And did you see that they actually put her middle name on hers? Oops. Of Mahala. So now I know her middle name. So I'm going to go back over here and do an Alt, Edit Person EP. Change that M to a Mahala. Click on V and to save it. And then do an SPO to put that source on there. SPO on her birthday. Mayfield, we know from that death certificate, and I should have put it on him too, he was the informant, and he's a junior. So I'm going to put SPO on him for this 1940 census. I'm going to go back and copy that memorize the death certificate to put on his name. You know, if you recognize the name of the informant, that is helpful because then you can figure out if they're related or not. A lot of times I have gotten women's married names because they were the informant on their parents' death certificates. So don't overlook that little factor. And last step is to go back to Hugh, and on his residence, I'm going to share this fact with multiple people because there's 2 other people on there. One of them is his wife and the other one is his son. And they are household members. I'm going to click enter. And while I'm here, I'm going to go on and add senior because that's what was on his death certificate. Okay. So you can see that now she has that 1940 census on her record. So that can help you in the future. And now we're going to go back and look at that. We'll close at 1940 so I don't get myself confused. I'm going to do this one probably next time we get together because that takes us back another generation. And I really usually try to work and finish a generation before I go try to jump back again. I'm going to see if I can find her death certificate. Well, and she's on 1902. So let's see if I can find her. These green ones mean that, like I said, that somebody's already looked at them and determined that, yeah, it's her, or her name is on them. We have her on 20, 30, and 40, so I'm not going to open the other ones right now. And we'll go on and do find a grave. And I didn't do find a grave. I didn't even work these parts. Here's find a grave. Sometimes find a grave can give you a lot of good information. Sometimes it can give you garbage. It only gives one. No, it did give me his wife. Yeah. I was going to see. Okay, this death certificate is actually for her. And note, she's divorced too, but they must have not, neither one of them remarried. This is on one of the daughters. And this is on the son that we've already done. So I'm going to close that one. Until you click on it and open it, you don't know if it's a dupe or not of somebody you've already gotten. So you have to open them all. So I'm going to go here and download her death certificate first, because I was really looking for her information. There it goes. Download it. Look how they spelled it. Okay, we're going to make that smaller, make this bigger. Actually, you can make it really big by clicking this toggle right here. We'll toggle it to full screen, which for some of you that need that, you might want to do that to help yourself. But now I don't know what happened to my, I can't get to my, the rest of my information if I do that. Although I work with two screens normally, so normally my program would be on one screen and all my internet connections would be on my external monitor, so I don't have to worry about making it big and covering up all my icons down here. So I'm going to click on her. I'm going to add a new source, or add a source by Alt S and C, because I know death certificate's there. Select it, and she's Veda, Mahaila. And she died in 63. Alt M A D and start typing her name, and it's the first one that comes up. And I'm going to memorize her death certificate because I'm going to come down here to her birth year. And we actually have February 22, 1884. In Louisiana. And I'm going to add her death of February 5th, 63. And she died in Pampa, Gray County, Texas. Was it Gray? Man, they typo and I can't see what they write. Control V to save it. SPO to put the source on it. And it has her dad is Joe Hudson. So I'm going to close this. I can add a father of Joe. And I'm going to add the source to him. Her mom's last name was Edwards. Whoever was given this information didn't know her given name. But we can go on and put that in there because every little bit helps when you're starting to work on this. It may be wrong. And I don't know who Mrs. C.W. Matson is. Because it may have been Ellen. But I don't know that. So I'll have to figure that. We'll have to figure that out later. So I'm going to close this window and this one. Now find a grave for her. Has no relationships to anybody anywhere. And they have this entered incorrectly. So I don't know if her name is really Vada or Lavada. I have not really seen Lavada yet on any legal record. But we do know that that's her death date and her birth year is incorrect. If this was entered correctly, Hudson should be in the italics and Cole where the Hudson is, but it's not. I don't take time to try to tell people to correct these because it's extremely time consuming to try to correct people's boo-boos. And a lot of times they won't do it anyway. But you can find out where she was buried. She was buried in Farmerville, Union Parish, Louisiana. So I'm going to come over here and add a fact of burial. And that was Farmersville. I think it was Farmers. No, just Farmer. Union, Louisiana. And that was in Edward Cemetery. And I'm going to Control V and it saves it into the database. Now that was her find a grave. Close that. I'm going to come back over here to his find a grave because it actually, his is showing that she must have more than one. That's interesting. This one is a different record because it's not Cole Hudson. So they've got two entries for the same person over there. Anyway, his information is there, and I'm going to add his burial information. I do not source this because find a grave is too large of a thing, one. Two, this information is available in multiple places because you can find it maybe in an obituary. You can find it on other websites that have cemetery information. So I don't use find a grave as a source for dates or anything, because a lot of times they're not right. So he was buried in Houston. And then Forest Park Cemetery. I'm going to close that now. I know a lot of people have written a lot of information down here, but that does not make it right. Because I have found some where the people have it wrong. And it's not just a little wrong, it's really wrong. So be very cautious of using information that other people have put out there on Find a Grave with family history and stuff, because I have found them with children links that there's no way that child could be the people's child, because he was either born too late or after one of them died. So, pay attention when you're working some of this stuff. This is one of the daughters, Ellen. There's that Matson. So it was her. View original document. And it gives her parents' names. It says she's married. And Charles W. Matson is probably her husband, because the initials were on that other death certificate, Mrs. C.W. So I'm going to go back to Ellen. They give us her middle name, E-R-R-Y-E. I don't know how you say that. Erie, maybe. I'm going to download this. I put her maiden name in Matson, death certificate. I'm going to add the source, death certificate. Put in her name as it is on the record. It's Texas, 1974. Oh no. 65709. Alt A D. Ellen. And then her information up here. Memorize it, because now I have a better birth date of May 31st, 14. Nothing better for Louisiana. I'm going to add her death. September 10th, 74. And she died in Pampa as well. So she must have been living, or her mother must have been living with them. That's why she gave the information on the death certificate. So I'm going to do Alt EP, SP on his and that puts a source on his name. The same thing for her mother. But while I'm here, I'm going to come back down to this death record, memorize that death certificate again, because now I know that that informant was her. I'm going to go back and memorize her death certificate, because I'm going to add her spouse. It's Charles W. Matson. Don't know that yet. So that adds him as well. Okay, back over here. Okay, that's that one. Okay, let's see where we are here. So we managed to get her maiden name. We don't have a marriage date because, and like I said, they married in Louisiana, and it is unlikely that I would find it. And Union, how that's saying LaSalle County. I was looking in Union because that's where they were. So I'm going to go back over here to Family Search and go to Search, Catalog, put in LaSalle. And they're spelling it. Depending upon where you're looking, they will put a space in there and then sometimes they won't. They don't actually have very many records. Well, that's because it was created in 1910 from Catahoula. But they do have marriage records from 1910. I normally open this in a new tab so I don't lose this search and see if they're available. Well, they're not. They're locked, but they do let you have an index. So I'm going to open this in a new link. Just because they may show up in the record where you go to records for Louisiana doesn't mean this search is in there. They did some things I don't exactly understand. But there is no Hugh Cole in here. There's none in Union either, so yeah, they're not there either. But I'll show you real quick what I'm talking about. When you go to catalog and records, a little map will come up and you can pick where you want to go look. Click on the United States and go down to Louisiana. In this case, you can either search by name up here or you can scroll through the databases and look at them. There are marriages here, but just because they're here doesn't mean the search that I just did is going to wind up in these records. They added a bunch of, when they digitized, they're being indexed, and those indexed records that are digitized are not winding up over here in this group of searches. So just be aware, you want to look in more than one place to make sure what you're looking for is not out there. I always start with Family Search because it's free. That's why I start here. So just be aware of that. The next place is to go to, of course, Ancestry or another one of the sites that you can get to. If you have TextShare available to you, Heritage Quest has some through them, not Heritage Quest, ProQuest has a lot of information available through TextShare that you can get to if you have a library card, an active library card. So, okay, let's see. I'm going to go back to Noreen because I don't know where she died. She did remarry to this Dunn Craig Marler. I don't know anything about him. And there's no little icon. And over here, there's no little icon for him, for her anymore that I don't have for her. So I'm going to click on him and actually do a web search in Ancestry. Because that's usually the easiest place to find the information. We already have the marriage record. I found there's a Find a Grave record. This doesn't matter for us because they got married after World War II. A lot of this I really don't care about because he's not my primary interest. I am really looking to find information on her. There are a lot of hits. I am going to fine tune this to Louisiana. Exact. Similar sounds like exact. I don't use initials here because every C will show up and every D will show up, and it makes it really difficult to then find information. If you don't want to scroll through all the city directories, you can actually pop down and look at other records specifically to here. I'm going to right mouse click on birth, marriages, and death. And now I find something very interesting. A newspaper.com marriage index record for my Aunt Jean, Mitch's great Aunt Jean, or not great, Aunt Jean. So I'm going to click this in this record. Now, because I have full-blown newspapers.com, not a subscription that multiple subscription that Ancestry offers where you can get Fold 3 and all this stuff, it will not show up there. You can't click on that link and go to, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Go back. No, I didn't do it right. Anyway, I did. All right, go back. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. I blew it up. Okay, there it is. View image. You can open it. I didn't wait long enough. I usually close this and make it big enough so I can see it. And in here lists that she's a daughter of Mrs. Marker and the late Marcus Eugene Lester. So this affirms her mother's, that it's the right person. Her mother's married, and he's still, and her second husband's still alive. But they talk about who the attendants were, his education and where he's going to school and where she's going to school. So don't ever not pursue these. If you're at, like, when we can go back to a library, you can get to these. Or you find somebody like me that has a full subscription that can download it for you. I usually tell people to send me this link that's in the Ancestry link so I can pull this actual thing up, because it will take me straight to the document. Now, the thing that's bad about this, oops, I gotta make it smaller to do it. If I want to clip it, I'm going to clip it. I'm going to tell it to save it. I don't know why they use a printer to say save, but they do. I guess it's better than that floppy disk that nobody knows what it is. It's going here, but the reason you don't see anything up here is because it's in Adobe Acrobat. So I'm going to download it. I'm going to show in folder. And there it is. And the reason I'm going to show it in folder is because I want to right mouse click it and open it with my full-blown Adobe Acrobat, not in regular Adobe or a regular reader, because I can export this into an image. We'll export the whole thing. And once I export it, I can crop it and do whatever I want to. It's going to ask me if I want to choose a different folder to put it in. It will save it as a JPEG. And I click on that. And it will come up and ask me how I want to name it. And usually I leave it whatever I've titled it. And it will save it. I can close this now, and there it is. So I can link a JPEG to my family tree. And I do crop just this, but this does give me the name of the newspaper and everything, so I am able to do that. And that is kind of where we will pick up next month.
This has been a production of the Dallas Genealogical
Are there
Society.
any questions?
If you're already a member, thank you.
Remember,
if you're
we're
not a
being
member,
recorded.
please consider joining now by going to
Maybe I should stop recording,
DallasGenealogy.com and clicking on the membership tab. Your membership dues will help us support the genealogy section of the Dallas Public Library, and it will allow us to continue our education and preservation efforts.